All right, welcome back to the channel. So Shawn Porter is Justin Hater override. There ain't any other way to describe it, man. He just straight hates on Errol Spence and Danny Garcia, dude, and then has something crazy to say to Keith Thurman. Well, actually, not crazy to say about Keith Thurman. Says that Keith Thurman needs to fight him, even though Keith Thurman just called him out. So let's make it happen. Let's talk about what Shawn Porter is a hating self, man, because that's all I can say about this. Has to say about Errol Spence Jr. and the Danny Garcia fight in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So Shawn Porter, whose not his last fight, but he was the last fight for Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. and he fought to unify the IBF and the WBC belts. Errol Spence Jr. won the fight in a fight that a lot of people thought was closer than they expected. I think Errol Spence Jr. won that fight, and I think Shawn Porter had a lot of really good moments, and it was a very good fight. It was an exciting fight. Shawn Porter certainly did not get bowled over. He definitely represented his and represented it well. But dude, you lost that fight, man. Okay, and this moral victory lap that he's been taking for a year, at some point in time, dog, has got to stop, okay? Because the fact of the matter is, dude, you got dropped and you lost to Errol, okay? It's just what it is. Let's move forward with it, dude. But you can hear it in man, you can hear it in his voice with almost any subject that he talks about, man, as it relates to these welterweights. Look, man, Shawn is definitely one of the best fighters in the welterweight division, dude. I know that he believed that he got ripped off and he really did beat Kell Brook. I know that he really believes that he beat Errol Spence Jr. But the fact is, dude, you didn't. You know what I mean? You didn't. Errol Spence Jr. is the man, and you're going to have to get back in line and see if you can get this fight going on with him, dude. But to say some of the things that he said, dude, to me in these interviews, man, he clearly knows that Errol Spence Jr. is going to win the fight. So let's talk a little bit about what he actually said about the fight, and then we'll get into a little bit more of the haterism that he had for my man Keith Thurman and Terrence Crawford. I'm telling you, Shawn Porter wants to be the man, and he's really close to being it, but I just don't think he ever will because he just is in the midst of a lot of great welterweights. But in talking about the Errol Spence fight, right, it's like he talks as if he just completely dominated this fight. He says that I controlled Errol Spence Jr. I made Errol Spence Jr. do whatever it is that I wanted Errol Spence Jr. to do. He was fighting my fight. I know that Errol says that he wanted to fight my fight, you know, that he chose to do that, but that wasn't the case. I forced him to fight my fight, right? And I was controlling him. And what Errol didn't realize was that this was the first time that he was in a fight where somebody was actually making him do the things that he, that the other guy wanted Errol to do, where he wasn't dictating the pace, where he wasn't dictating what was happening in the fight, right? Shawn, even if that's true, he still beat you. Okay, you set the pace. You dictated that it was on an inside fight. Now, saying Errol Spence Jr. says that he could have beat Shawn Porter easy from the outside. I don't know if that's true or not. I believe that he believes that's true. I don't know if it's true or not. I tend to think that Shawn Porter has some truth. There's a lot of truth to what Shawn Porter's saying about the fight, that it was what Shawn was doing that would put Errol in situations where he had to fight. Absolutely, dude. I believe that that's the case because Shawn Porter's a world-class fighter, and you're not going to get in there and with him and him not make adjustments, him not get his money off. It's going to happen. He's that level of fighter. However, Shawn, you got beat. You got dropped. You lost most of the rounds. Most of the clean, effective punching on the inside and the outside was Errol. I don't care. You have highlights where you were connecting, but there's way more highlights of you getting connected with and getting dropped. But it was a great fight that Errol overcame and you didn't. Now you got to do what you got to do to get back in line. Now, as far as what he said about Danny Garcia, he says that, look, Danny Garcia can't do any of the things that I can do, right? I can get in and out on Errol Spence Jr. Danny can't get in and out on Errol, right? And he said with Danny, that's kind of the problem, is that he has the skill set. He has he has the experience. He has the strength, even though Shawn Porter did say that he didn't feel the power of Danny Garcia like he felt Errol Spence. He's like, I felt Errol Spence Jr. shot. He didn't really feel Danny Garcia's shots. Now, that might be because Danny Garcia never really had an opportunity to really land anything big because Shawn knows to take that away. But still, in assessing what's going to happen between the two, it's clear that he has the advantage for Errol. But again, like everybody, he's saying, well, we don't know how much he's got left in the tank after that really bad accident. I'm getting a little tired of it because Errol and his camp is just saying, look, we're 100%. I certainly hope that Danny's not like resting on the fact that this guy's not going to be all the way together because, dude, but that accident was well over a year ago, right? And well, not well over again. What was it in like October of last year? But it was, it was past, it's over a year, right? And the guy's saying he got a clean bill of health, right? So I just hope Danny Garcia isn't going in there thinking that, or actually, let me be honest. I hope he is going in there thinking like that and didn't quite prepare all the way, and Errol's looking like a monster because, I think that that's what's best for the welterweight division, and I'm an Errol Spence Jr. fan, so I'm going to ride with my guy. All that said, though, Shawn, look, Shawn just got to get rid of that. He's just got to get rid of that, man. He's just got to get rid of that because you can hear it in him when he talks about Jermell Charlo. Like, you're telling me you think Terrence Crawford can beat Jermell Charlo? That has got to be and you can dominate Jermell Charlo, and everybody in the welterweight division that moves up will dominate Jermell Charlo. Man, that just doesn't sound right, man. It sounds like you ain't big on Jermell Charlo because Derek James says something about your trainer and father, who I got a ton of respect for, man. I got a ton of respect for both the Porters, right? But it's boxing, and, we got to say what we got to say. We got to say what we believe. So, Derek James and those guys don't get along. So Shawn is just finding ways just to stick him everywhere that they go. But at a certain point, man, you got to give people the credit that they deserve, man. The moral victory lap, like I said, the moral victory lap has to stop, right? And the idea that because you're winding up making predictions and saying things that just from time to time sound really foolish. And the only way that we really can make sense of it is that Shawn is hating, right? Because if you listen to Shawn knows his boxing for real. Like, I'm listening to him in his talk shows and when he's talking about boxing and when he's not, we know the podcast that he's doing. Shawn is very, very good, man. Shawn is very good. He understands the sport. I think he's trying to be kind of political, right? So he understands the political side of it and is willing not to step on toes, is willing to say the right thing. So I think Shawn Porter is going to go very far in the commentary area, right? In his own podcast. Of all the guys that are doing these podcasts that are athletes that are doing them, I think Shawn Porter is definitely one of the best of them, man. He's very engaging, man. He's very active. You just got to get rid of the hate for Errol, man, because you lost, And now he talks about Keith Thurman, right, and says that, Keith Thurman is saying, look, man, I want the winner of Errol versus Danny Garcia. And Shawn is saying, nah, you got to get behind me, right, because I'm next in line. Well, Shawn, Keith just said that he wanted to knock you out. If he knocks you out, then he feels like he can clear you out of the way. So that seems like the perfect opportunity for both Shawn Porter and Keith Thurman to get a run back. I don't think that is going to be a pay-per-view on that run back, but hey, man, on a regular Fox, that's going to do good numbers. And then let the winner be in place to get either Manny Pacquiao or Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford. But then in regards to Terrence Crawford, Shawn Porter again is back to telling the truth, right? He's like, look, the fights with Terrence Crawford can definitely happen if he comes over there to the PBC, because then you don't have to worry about Bob Arum scheduling, the monetary issues or, the salary issues, not salary, the purse issues that come with Bob Arum. But, he's like, man, he acts like he'd want that fight. So as much as I get on Shawn Porter now for hating, because I do think he's hating, I think you're hating, dog. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I every once in a while you'll catch me and I have to just draw myself back and be like, nah, that's a little personal. The Errol Spence Jr. is personal, but Shawn Porter, as far as fighting either Keith Thurman or Terrence Crawford, Love it a lot, man. And also, I love his podcast. I think he's a very informative guy. Wish him the best. But anyway, on this, nah, dog, you're really, really, really bugging, dog. Stop hating on Errol, man, and fight him again. Stop riding off that moral victory, dude, because it's not real. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know yours. And with that, I'm out. Peace.